next matchup is Ohio State at Purdue. Ryan, who do you like in this one?
I like Ohio State in this one. Their run defense has been very good. I don't think they'll have a problem stopping Rob Bolton. I think they'll big win over the Boilermakers.
John?
Well, I don't like Terrell Pryor as a pocket passer yet, but I don't think they'll really need him to be this game. Purdue doesn't have much of a game to speak of. Ohio State easy.
I think this game's gonna be closer than the experts think. I do think Ohio State's gonna win by a touchdown or two, but I don't think this one's gonna be a blowout by any means. But I'm gonna pick Ohio State. Our next game is Cincinnati at South Florida. John, who do you like in this game?
Well, Cincinnati's been putting up very impressive offensive numbers, I'll admit that. But they haven't really faced a D like South Florida yet. They've been playing some cakes, sort of. So I like South Florida actually in this game, based because of their defense, and I think their offense has just enough to keep pace with Cincinnati, and they'll win a close one.
Who are you taking in this one, Ryan?
I'll take the Bearcats in this one. Their offense has just been very, very good, and I think they won't be as good as they usually are. South Florida does have a good D, but I think they should get the W.
I think Cincinnati is gonna struggle against South Florida with South Florida's defense, but I do think Cincinnati's gonna win this one close. So look to that one to be a close game. Our next matchup is Miami at Central Florida, and this one's a pretty easy pick, isn't it, John?
Absolutely. Miami is going to absolutely roll through UCF. No surprises here.
What do you think, Ryan?
Miami big.
Yeah, no question here. Our next game is Iowa at Wisconsin. Ryan, who do you like in this matchup?
I like Iowa in this one. They might have issues stopping Clay, but I think their offense will be good enough for them to come out on top in this one.
John?
Even though Stanzi isn't playing quite up to his level last year, I do think that he'll play well enough, along with Iowa's defense, will keep them in the game. So I think Iowa will win this. Once again, a close game for Iowa.
I think Ricky Stanzi is one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Sure, he makes a couple mistakes here and there, and sometimes they're costly at that, but I like Iowa's defense to hold off Wisconsin in this one. Our next matchup is TCU versus Colorado State. John, who are you taking in this matchup?
Well, I'm going to take TCU simply because I don't know much about Colorado State. I know they did do pretty well against Utah when they lost 24-17, but TCU has just too good of an offensive line. They'll move the ball fairly easy, I think, against Colorado State, getting a fairly easy W.
Right?
I like TCU in this one as well. They've been very good at stopping their run, and that's what Colorado State usually does. So I think they'll have issues moving the ball. TCU will definitely win.
Colorado State, it's not a bad team, but I think TCU is a much better team. Our next matchup is Penn State versus Minnesota. Ryan, is this going to be a tricky game?
No, I don't think Penn State will have a problem. I see their defense getting all over Weber. I think Penn State will win this one big.
John, I think you have a different take on this.
Well, I do think that Minnesota will have a good amount of success passing the ball against Penn State, but in the end, I do think Penn State's defense is just too good. They'll get after Weber, the quarterback from Minnesota, and shut down Eric Decker for the most part.
Well, I think Minnesota can keep this one close. I'm not sure Penn State's good as the number 14 ranking says they are. Other than Iowa, they really haven't played anybody on their schedule. So, but I'm going to take Penn State with this. Our next matchup is Nebraska versus Texas Tech. John, who you like in this one?
Well, as everyone can tell, Texas Tech's offense did very well last week, but Nebraska's a huge step up from Kansas State's defense. I do think Nebraska should win this game, but it'll be a lot closer than most people think because Texas Tech can score.
Ryan, what do you think?
I think Helu and the Black Shirts are going to lead the Cornhuskers to a W here. Just the pass-heavy Red Raiders.
I think Nebraska's defense and the fact that they're playing at home gets them the W in this one. Our next game is Oklahoma State versus Missouri. Ryan, who do you like in this matchup?
I like the upset in this one. I think Missouri is going to pull out on top of this one with their offense, and then I think Oklahoma State with the off-field issues, they're going to be distracted. I think they're going to win a close one, but they'll get the W.
John, what do you think?
Well, I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm going to pick Oklahoma State simply because I'm not sold on Missouri. I mean, yeah, they've done okay this season, but they're not that impressive from what I've seen.
I'm going to pick Missouri in this one too. I like the upset picking this. I like what Blaine Gabbert has done this year. He's created some continuity with his receivers, and I think he gets on track as long as the weather's all right. I think Missouri's going to win this one. Our next game is Kansas at Colorado. Ryan, who do you like in this matchup?
I like the Jayhawks in this one. I see their defense bouncing back after giving up a lot of yards to an Iowa State team. I think Kansas will win this one big.
John, what do you think?
Well, I'm not sure if Kansas D is that good that they can bounce back, but I do think that they have way more than enough offense with Breesing, Desmond Briscoe, and Kerry Meyer. So they'll win most games with their offense, and they're going to win this one too.
I think Colorado is clearly the lesser team in this. They haven't been playing up to expectations. And even though Kansas struggled last week versus Iowa State, I think Kansas is enough to get this one done. Our next matchup is BYU at San Diego State. John, who are you picking in this one?
I'm going to take BYU. We all know that they can pass the ball with Max Hall, but Harvey Young is actually establishing himself as a dependable running back in his last few games, so I'm going to take BYU pretty easily.
Ryan, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I'll take BYU. Max Hall's gonna have a good day out there. Should be a blowout.
I agree, BYU all the way. Our next game is Houston at Tulane. Ryan, who are you gonna take in this one?
Oh, definitely Houston. Keenum's gonna light Tulane up. They should have no problem.
John, what do you think?
Well, Keenum has been throwing it a ton. He really shouldn't have to this game. I hope they won't have to. I see them getting the ball on the ground more, and they're going to pull off an easy win.
No question. I think Tulane does have some offensive firepower, but not enough to match up with Houston. So I think Houston's gonna win this one pretty handily. Our next game is Utah at UNLV. John, who are you gonna take in this matchup?
I'm going to take Utah this one. I think they just simply have more than enough talent on their roster to beat an overmatched UNLV team.
Ryan?
I'll take Utah in this one. Their only loss is to Oregon, so I don't see that changing. Should have no problem beating the Rebels.
Absolutely, I'm gonna agree with you guys. Utah wins this one in a rout. That's it for this week's picks. We'll be back next week with more picks. We'd like you to subscribe if you could, and feel free to leave any comments or suggestions. We'll see you next week.